Welcome back. Today we are talking about my favorite app in the whole wide world, the Gram. You know, as photographers these days, it's not just about going out and shooting the photos anymore. It's all about presentation. It's all about how you show your photos and how you are able to promote yourself. And obviously, there are a million different ways to do this, but one of the most popular, the most effective, the most crazy is Instagram, the Gram. And you know, it's basically a free platform to show yourself off to the world. It's free advertising, it's free marketing, and it's a way to create a real-time, living, breathing portfolio that you can update as you shoot and as you acquire more work to show off the best of the best of what you got. But the question I get all the time is, how do I make my feed look better? How do I make my photos look more professional? How do I make my profile have a more cohesive look? And so I wanted to put together this little video to hopefully answer those questions for you guys. So I put together 5 general tips and tricks that I've picked up over the years that I think will help you out. Now, here's a disclaimer. Just like making a photography portfolio, Instagram is totally subjective. There are a million ways to go about it, and there is no right answer. There is no right way to do things. But I do think these tips will help as a general starting point, and hopefully you can take these tips and apply them to whatever unique creative look or creative assets you bring to the table. So just use these as a guide. Don't take them as the be-all end-all. I am not an authority on Instagram by any means. I do have a decent following. I've been using the platform for a long time now, both personally and professionally. But take these as a general starting point, and hopefully these will help you out and you can apply them to your own unique style, your own unique look. All right, so let's get into it with number 1. Okay, the theme you are going to hear throughout this video is consistency, and that starts with this very first point here, which is it's super important to develop a consistent look and feel to your photos. And that look is called your aesthetic. And your aesthetic is what is going to help define you as a photographer and is going to help establish your profile as a place that people want to come back to for content as time goes on. Now, there are a couple ways to go about building this aesthetic, building this look. I'm going to break it down into 2 elements for you. The first is your color palette, and the second is your strategy when it comes to cropping. So I'll break these 2 down for you. For color, you really want to decide on a look and feel for how you tone your images and stick with that look as you go on. Do you want a bold, contrasty, saturated look? Do you want more of a muted, faded feel? Or do you want to go black and white only? Now, this choice is totally up to you, but a helpful tip is to either create a preset in Photoshop or Lightroom, or if you use the Instagram filters, pick one of those filters in the app and use it every single time. For example, a little behind the scenes into my own feed, I edit and tone all of my photos in Photoshop Camera Raw. Then once I get them into the Instagram app, I will add about 10 to 15 points of the lo-fi filter every single time. So I only use the lo-fi filter, and I only use about 10 to 15 points of that filter. And that has allowed me to build this consistent feel, this consistent look over the course of time. And then once you've got your colors, you can think about your crop strategy. And this boils down to, do you want to fill the frame that the Instagram gives you? Or do you want to utilize the white or negative space to give your feed more of a curated look and feel? Now, I personally use the full frame to fill it with big in-your-face photos, but I know a lot of amazing photographers who have beautifully curated profiles that have this really nice, clean aesthetic by leaving white space around their images. And that just gives it this clean, minimalist, zen kind of feel. So remember, there are no right answers, whatever is best for you. But developing a consistent look and a consistent feel will really help your profile stand out from the pack. Okay, hot take here, and this is a fun debate among photographers. Everyone will have a different opinion on this issue, but if you ask me, I believe that the grid in your Instagram profile matters just as much, if not more so, as the individual photos that you are posting to your feed. And what I mean by that is this. I think the photos you should post should have some sort of relationship to one another, some sort of narrative over the course of time that fills out your grid in a logical way, rather than just a random assortment of photos from random points in time. So whenever possible, I try to post photos back to back that have some sort of relationship to each other, whether that's similar type of content, similar color, similar crop, similar personality. I always like to try and just keep a little bit of consistency to the grid to make sure that the grid fills out as a whole cohesive unit rather than just a jumble of random photos. So a tip for helping you here: just because you shot something doesn't mean that you need to post it right away. For example, if you are in the middle of shooting a 10-game baseball homestand and on day 5 of that homestand you shoot an NBA basketball game, if you ask me, you should just wait until the end of that homestand and you've finished posting all of your baseball content from those 10 games. And at the end of it, you can go back and post that NBA game and any other different work that you did over that time. Now, the counter argument here is obviously that the Instagram feed is just single photos, and as you're scrolling, all you see is single photos and not the grid. So you can just post whatever you want at any given time. And if you agree there, then I definitely see your point. But do think about this. If someone discovers your profile, the first thing they see is your grid, and they're gonna scroll through that grid before clicking into an individual photo that they wanna see. And keep in mind, your Instagram is a portfolio. So if they click your portfolio and see your grid, they are looking at your entire portfolio, your living, breathing portfolio all at once. And you know what they say about first impressions. So pay attention to your grid. Whether you like it or not, it is a fact that closer up photos with a big, tight crop perform better on Instagram than wider angle photos or photos that have many different layers to them. Now, as a photographer, it kills me to say that because it's really easy to get caught up in the mentality of shooting for Instagram and shooting for likes on Instagram rather than shooting whatever is the best picture for that given moment. So you really have to be careful there. But if you think about it, this does make sense. People are scrolling through Gram on a small screen and the photos that are coming up are miniature. So obviously the photos with a big tight crop, those really big, bold, in-your-face images are going to stand out on the small screen better than the photos that are more wider angle or have kind of multiple layers to them. It's weird because there's a lot of photos that I've taken that are really good photos that may end up in my portfolio on my website, but they don't ever end up on my Instagram feed because they're a little bit more nuanced and they won't perform as well on the small screen. All right, now a disclaimer. There are absolutely brilliant photographers who naturally shoot with a wider eye, who don't go so bold, and whose photos have more layers and things to look at. Now, if you are one of those photographers, please stay true to yourself and don't do it for the gram. Basically, with this point, you have to prioritize what you're looking to get out of Instagram. If you're in it for the likes, sprinkle in or go heavier on those tight, bold images. But if you're truly looking to post your style and your work, listen, do you and post whatever you feel. Again, this is a tricky one. I'm not saying I like this trend. I don't think it's the best thing for photographers and their creative process, but just looking at the facts and acknowledging that this is a reality on Gram. Regardless of what your shooting style is, it's super important to maintain the right technical aspects of photography when it comes to actually posting the photos onto your profile. And one of those aspects is your aspect ratio. The aspect ratio is basically the crop measurement that you use to crop a photo. And I would suggest sticking to either 1 or 2 aspect ratios and keeping those ratios consistent throughout your feed. So do you do a 4:5 vertical aspect ratio to get those nice big long vertical images, or do you do a 16:9 ratio to get a super wide, super horizontal image onto your feed? Whatever you choose, there is no right answer, but I think it's great to stick to 1 or 2 of those throughout your feed and through every single photo that you post. Again, consistency is key for me. I typically post either at a 4:5 vertical format to really maximize the amount of screen space that you can get on the feed, or the 2:3 horizontal format. I rarely go outside of those parameters, and that just helps me develop a consistent feel to my work and builds a framework for how I'm going to present my photos. Now, just as with editing for color and toning and sharpening, I definitely suggest you do your cropping in Photoshop or Lightroom before sending to your phone. You can save your crop presets super easily, and it's just nice to be able to do multiple photos with the same crop at the same time and work on a larger screen to make sure you're cropping the best, most effective way possible. The thing you want to avoid is just being all over the place with your crops, having different aspect ratios, having messed up crops where you're going to have some black bars or some black negative space that you don't want on your feed. Remember, it all comes back to the grid and the overall look of your profile. So keep in mind the aspect ratios. It'll really help you out. Not a glamorous part of the editing process, but something that is super, super important. If you guys stuck around this far and listened to me talk this whole time, you are in luck, because I'm gonna let you in on a little secret from the social media world, and that has to do with the Instagram carousel gallery feature. Now that's the feature where you're allowed to post 10 photos in a single post and you can swipe between photos. Now that carousel feature is your best friend. Why? Because the carousels always outperform single photos in your feed, and that is a fact. Check this out. If a user comes across a carousel in their feed, but they don't tap like on that photo that they see, the Instagram algorithm will automatically push that carousel to the user again a little bit further down in their feed. And when it shows to the user again, it shows the second photo in that carousel, not the first. So basically you've doubled your chances for engagement with the carousel feature, because if someone doesn't like your post the first time, they're going to see it again in a little bit later on in their feed. Okay, but obviously it's not only about the likes for photographers in general. The carousel feature is just a really great way to showcase more work, either from an individual shoot or from a collection of images that you've shot over time. So make heavy use of the carousel. It's definitely a photographer's best friend on the gram. All right, remember, there are no right answers when it comes to Instagram. It's pretty much the Wild West on the app, and it's totally subjective. There are a million different ways to go about this. But remember, stay true to yourself as a photographer. Stay true to your own vision, your own style, and that will really show through in your profile. Don't do it for likes. Don't do it to impress other people. Whatever makes your own photographic style unique, that is what you should stick with. But hopefully these are some general guidelines, some general tips and tricks to help you out to develop a more consistent look and a more consistent feel, and to really begin to craft your own aesthetic that will make you stand out from the pack on Instagram. But if you have any questions, any comments on how you run your show on Instagram, please drop them down in the comments below. I love hearing from you guys and what you have to say. So I look forward to hearing from you. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We're gonna keep pushing on here with more content, both on YouTube and on Instagram. You can follow me right along on both. Until then, I will see you guys at the next video, or hopefully I'll see you on the gram.